Welcome back. Let's see what's going on in the global oil space. Prices rose today as analysts pointed to signs of United States supply tightness, ending days of losses as global markets remain haunted by potential impact on China's economy of a crisis at heavily indebted property group China. Evergrande is really affecting a lot of markets in different companies for some days since last week. Well, Brent crude gained 52 cents, which is 0.7%, to stop at $74.44 a barrel. The contract for West Texas Intermediate, which expires later on today, was up 61 cents at $70.90 a barrel. It went down 2.3% in the previous session. Global utilities are switching to fuel oil due to rising gas and coal prices and lingering outages from the Gulf of Mexico after Hurricane Ida that imply less supply is available. Investors across financial assets have been rocked by the fallout from heavily indebted Evergrande and the threats of a wider market shakeout. Well, we'll talk about the details from this and a whole lot more. We hear about the oil, gas prices going up, energy prices going up, and a whole lot of things. Evergrande is a major factor now in the world affecting markets. Well, to talk about this, we have Adeshola Sumoni joining us from Reading in the United Kingdom. He's a research analyst with financial derivatives company. Good to speak with you, Adeshola. Good morning.
Good morning, Amy. Good to have you. Thank you for having
Good.
me on the show.
Yeah, just before we delve into the arrange, what's going on with Evergrande is affecting everywhere except Nigeria, that is, or maybe it's also affecting Nigeria.
I think what is happening is because this is Evergrande is a strategically important company in China, and they are, as you said, they are highly indebted. And now it seems as if they are going to default on some of their debt payments, and the Chinese government is not going to intervene. That's the vibe that the market is getting right now, and that is spooking investors, and that is sending them a risk averse sentiment across all the markets, both the financial markets, the commodities markets. Is sending a risk off sentiment, and that is having a knock on effect on many things that we will talk about later in the day.
But it seems oil prices are kind of like recovering this morning. See, Brent at $74.74. Like the impact is not that much in the oil market.
Well, I think that the factors that are supporting Brent at this moment are higher than the factors that are weighing down on Brent. For instance, on factors weighing on Brent, we said there's a risk-off sentiment or a risk-averse sentiment, which is moving investors away from risky assets towards safer assets, and is strengthening the US dollar. So usually, when the US dollar strengthens against a basket of other currencies, it makes dollar denominated commodities more expensive to holders of other currencies. So that weighed on Brent yesterday. But today we are seeing other factors like like you mentioned, the disruptions caused by Hurricane Ida and one other hurricane, I don't remember the name now, as we still have about a quarter of production shut-ins in the Gulf of Mexico. So around like 24-25% of output is still offline, and that is supporting Brent prices. We also have the fact that the United States and United Kingdom have lifted up travel restrictions. So that is going to increase international travel. It's going to increase demand for jet fuel, which is positive for oil prices. In addition to that, we're also seeing OPEC Plus and the International Energy Administration, show that forecast for oil demand, which is positive. They expect, oil demand to significantly, outpace oil supply towards the end, up until the end of the year and early next year. So all of these factors they outweigh the factor that all these factors, supporting prices outweigh the factors that are weighing on oil prices.
And then you also have the US Fed meeting, which is supposed to take place this week also. That's also a factor that what would investors or players in the global oil space, what would they like to hear, from the US Fed?
So at the US at the moment, everyone is looking at the US Fed because at the last meeting in Jackson Hole, the Fed president, Jay Powell, he signaled that, he might make some announcements about tapering the asset purchase program. So I think at the moment, everyone is just looking for clues as to, when the US Fed is going to start tapering or reducing the asset purchase program, and by how much. Currently, I think the US Fed purchases about 120 billion worth of assets from commercial banks in the US monthly. So I think the markets, that's what they're looking at. When is this going to stop, and by how much is the Fed going to reduce this asset purchase program? And that is what everyone is looking at now, because that has knock-on effect on many other markets.
All right, back here now, we see Nigeria's oil rig count is up to 11 points from about 4 rigs, while domestic production is up 6%. What is the significance of this, development with our oil rigs actually going up, but still compared to other oil producers, we're still lagging behind?
I mean, so the oil rig count is the measure of the health of the oil and gas industry, right? So with Nigeria's oil rig count going up, it signifies that more companies are drilling oil. So there's a lot of there's more explorative activity, and that's likely to increase Nigeria's oil production. And that's significant because in July, when OPEC Plus agreed to increase their production quotas, Nigeria's production quota was increased from 1.4 million barrels per day to 1.8 million barrels per day. However, Nigeria has struggled to actually increase its production. Like you mentioned, last month, Nigeria's production was about 1.2 million barrels per day. So with this lower oil production, Nigeria is not fully taking advantage of the relatively higher oil price environment. So with this higher oil rig count, I think it's positive. It means that more oil production is going to come on stream, and that would increase Nigeria's exports and also Nigeria's benefits from the higher oil environment.
All right. Okay,
well, I'm just curious. You're in the UK. We've been talking to our correspondent in the UK, and she's been telling us how expensive it's become when you talk about energy, gas, the price of gas and paying for energy, and it's really getting cold there. Share with us your experience first, and then tell us how this is going to, or this can affect global recovery. We're still trying to recover from the pandemic, and now we have this issue with the gas hike in price.
Okay, let me give you my own experience. So this year alone, my electricity bill has increased 2 times. And it's going to increase again in October, right? And what is the reason? So gas the gas is usually used to, generate electricity, because the UK and European countries are trying to move away from fossil fuels. They're trying to move away from coal and other, dirty sources of energy towards cleaner sources of energy like, water, wind, gas, solar, and the likes. So first and foremost, we've seen the price of natural gas increase sharply to record highs. In the UK, it's increased to record highs. Even in the US, it's increased to like a 7-year high, and it's driven by many factors. One was a prolonged winter. A prolonged winter significantly reduced the stockpiles or the inventory of gas. Usually, and that is usually what's replenished over the summer. But for this year, for some reason, we had low exports from Russia, which is one of the largest producers of natural gas, as well as low exports from Texas. In addition to that, we also have huge demand. Like you said, the world is recovering, schools are resuming, everything. People are now moving back to work. So there's huge demand for electricity. So that is also affecting the price of gas. Now, how does this affect the recovery? So with higher gas prices, it translates to higher electricity prices. Like I mentioned, my own personal electricity bill has increased twice this year already. And because the electricity bill is kind of like a necessity, it is effectively a tax on household income, on discretionary household income. So with higher electricity bills, household energy, let me start again, please. With higher electricity bills, it reduces discretionary income for the households, which reduces their spending power, and that has a knock-on effect on businesses, revenues, and things like that. So that will also affect the global recovery. In addition to that, higher electricity bill also affects the cost of production for goods, which may then be passed on to the final consumer. So overall, I think it's going to have a knock-on effect on spending power of individuals, households, and firms, and that's going to kind of constrain, the recovery, the economic recovery.
All right, you're talking about moving to cleaner, energy. Now, I see that India, our biggest consumer of our oil and buyer, is actually investing heavily right now in alternative, cleaner energy. It doesn't look good for Nigeria.
Sorry about that. It doesn't look good. No, and we've been having this discussion since, and unfortunately we find ourselves in the same situation of being overtly dependent on oil. I mean, I know this switch to cleaner energy is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a couple of years, 10, 15 years. I mean, you see countries having like 2030, 2050 targets to reach zero energy, zero, what's the word now? CO2 emissions. So it's gradual, but Nigeria also should focus on, properly diversifying its economy, because the world is moving fast. And if Nigeria does not move along to, diversify its economy and look for other stronger sources of export revenue, a time will come where the oil will be worth way less than it is now, and Nigeria is going to suffer for it if we do not make the big changes now. Like here, you see electric cars everywhere. It's becoming huge. You see a lot of cars powered by natural gas, buses powered by natural gas. We are seeing a gradual shift. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be gradual, but I think Nigeria also needs to move with the times. If not, we'll be left behind.
We'll not be left behind. We'll certainly work on it. Well, take us through the developments in the commodities market.
Okay, thank you. So for the domestic commodities market, it is mixed, really. So we've seen the prices of many commodities remain flat. We've seen price of beans remain flat at 40,000 naira, rice at 27,000 naira. We've seen price of a 50 kg bag of cement remain flat at 4,000 naira. Pepper also flat at 30,000 naira. For import-dependent commodities, or commodities that have import content, we are seeing a pass-through effect of the exchange rates, pressures on their prices. For instance, if you look at the price of flour is up 28% to 21,000 naira, and semolina is also up 13.6% to 5,000 naira. We also see the price of sugar up 20.8% to 22,950 naira. And this is simply because of the pass-through effect of the currency pressures. Now, for commodities that we grow in the country that are perishable commodities like tomatoes, yam, and the likes, we are seeing the price of them. We are seeing their prices decline due to seasonality, due to harvest season. I've seen the price of tomatoes, of a 50 kg basket of tomatoes, down 23% to 27,000 naira, and a medium-sized tuber of new yam also down 33% to 1,000 naira.
All right, Adeshola, thank you so much for giving us updates from the commodities market and, of course, the conversation around power and gas. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye.